Everyone can see that Daniel Ricciardo isn't having the best time at McLaren right now. Even his boss has been publicly critical of him. But what did a Formula One icon say the future of Ricciardo's career will depend on? And has Ricciardo lost the support of his entire team? Plus, why is Pierre Gasly being told to abandon Red Bull? And whose seat is up for grabs next year? Stay tuned, because all of that and more is coming right up. Daniel Ricciardo is one of the most well-liked drivers on the grid, but in Formula One, that's not enough. His performances after his dramatic breakup with Red Bull 2019 have been mixed. He first went to Renault and was supposed to be a key part of team principal Cyril Abiteboul's plans to rebuild the constructor, but Ricciardo broke more hearts when he left Renault the following year for McLaren. The Australian reportedly took a pay cut because he saw strong potential in McLaren, but whatever he saw failed to materialize. Team principal Zak Brown made a rare public criticism of Ricciardo recently that has put even more pressure on him to perform. So far, he has trailed his young teammate Lando Norris in almost every race, and Zak Brown made it clear that it wasn't good enough. He said, "We're trying everything we can. Short of Monza and a few races, it's generally not met his or our expectations." Ricciardo responded to those comments by agreeing with Brown's assessment and saying that nobody needs to remind him of his poor performance. But he also said that he still believes he has the capability to be at the front of races and to fight for wins. And former driver Martin Brundle agrees. Brundle thinks that while Ricciardo still has the skill and technique to be competitive, it's his mentality that's holding him back. But McLaren and Ricciardo might end the year by deciding to go separate ways. His contract lasts until the end of 2023, but the way things sound at McLaren, the team could be exploring their options. Next, changing of the guard. At the age of 32, Ricciardo might just not be the same racer he once was. After the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, he was empathizing with Lewis Hamilton's reported back pain. Hamilton said that Baku was the most painful race of his career because of the porpoising of his Mercedes, but some thought that the complaints might have been a bit of a political maneuvering. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner has speculated that Mercedes may have told Hamilton to exaggerate his injuries as much as possible. Why? Because if teams like Mercedes can get the FIA to intervene and change regulations, it could level the playing field. But one man who wasn't doubting Hamilton's pain was Daniel Ricciardo. He said that he believes in how capable Hamilton still is, and it doesn't surprise him that he is in that much pain. Ricciardo said, "I saw some of his onboards. I saw pictures of him getting out of the car and stretching his back, and he wasn't exaggerating. It really was uncomfortable." Although Hamilton's younger teammate George Russell has also come to his defense, a lot of the younger drivers have been pretty quiet about the impact of porpoising. Early in the season, Charles Leclerc said that he wasn't affected by it much, but his teammate Carlos Sainz has voiced concerns about his long-term health. Could this be a generational divide that pushes older drivers out of the sport? If so, drivers like Hamilton and Ricciardo may be pretty high on the chopping block. Coming up next, what did Toto Wolff say about the prospect of Pierre Gasly joining his ranks? And who is Max Verstappen's biggest competition this year? So don't go anywhere. Even though Ricciardo's career hasn't gone exactly how he had hoped so far, he is still inspiring some, and one former driver thinks that he is still a good example for drivers stuck in the Red Bull ecosystem. Johnny Herbert has said that he believes Pierre Gasly needs to leave AlphaTauri and the Red Bull family if he wants to have any chance of future success. Gasly was briefly promoted to Red Bull for half a season in 2019, but his results failed to impress management. But the very next season, Gasly scored his first win in Formula One with AlphaTauri in a fairy tale-style race in Monza. Since then, he has been eagerly awaiting his opportunity to redeem himself at Red Bull. But with Max Verstappen's contract lasting until 2028 and Sergio Perez just signing a 2-year contract extension, it looks like there won't be any space for a while. That's why Johnny Herbert thinks he should follow Ricciardo's direction. On an episode of the F1 Nation podcast, he said, "I think he's got to do what Daniel did, break away from Red Bull. You don't want to be stuck in the same team, like AlphaTauri, as good a car as they supply him for the rest of his career." Another good example of a driver who broke out of the Red Bull stables is Carlos Sainz. He left Toro Rosso in 2017 for Renault before moving on to McLaren and now having a dream seat at Ferrari. But it's still a big risk. It doesn't work out for everyone who leaves. That's what Ricciardo has proven. At this point, though, if Gasly has another opportunity, what's he got to lose? After Perez signed his contract extension with Red Bull, there was a brief flicker of hope that Pierre Gasly might be able to secure a spot at a team like Mercedes. But when team boss Toto Wolff was asked, he shut down any rumors. He said, "No door is open for us. We have one strength, it's the two guys." And Wolff has a point. Mercedes have had a disastrous fall from grace this year and have only been able to manage podiums through sheer luck or the fantastic driving of their newbie George Russell. So, no spot open at Mercedes. What about Ferrari? Both of their drivers are still under contract until the end of 2024, and at the moment, it looks unlikely that anything will change that. Charles Leclerc has delivered the team its best best results in years, and Carlos Sainz has been a strong competitor as he gets more comfortable with the new cars this year. Looking at the driver market, there are a few possible options for Gasly if he does leave AlphaTauri. The first one would be taking Ricciardo's place at McLaren. Another option is Alpine. Fernando Alonso has been a key part of the rebranded Renault team, establishing themselves as one of the strongest midfield teams this year, but his contract is up at the end of the year. Then, there could be a place at Aston Martin if Sebastian Vettel leaves, or at Haas if Mick Schumacher leaves. Whatever ends up happening, this year is going to be a scramble to secure drivers for next year. One man that will have almost no worries about his future in the sport is Max Verstappen. After years of biting at the heels of Mercedes, he finally got his big reward last year with his first World Championship. And even after a tough start to the 2022 campaign, Max is back on top with his Ferrari rival Charles Leclerc fading into the distance. According to analyst Jolyon Palmer, Red Bull's comeback has been largely thanks to a change in Verstappen's driving style. While he is still quick and aggressive at times, Palmer thinks that Verstappen's experience is starting to shine. He said, "Verstappen, as reigning champion this year, looks to be driving more maturely. He's happier to bide his time in the races rather than go for the win-or-bust approach he sometimes took last year." Palmer is of course referring to the ugly rivalry that Verstappen had with Hamilton in the 2021 season. There were multiple collisions, DNFs, and controversial moments that so far haven't been part of Max's strategy this year. But the season is long, and if Ferrari can bounce back and mount a challenge for the title, then the second half of the season could turn just as ugly. We saw a preview of it in some of the opening races, but things have definitely calmed down since then. For now though, Verstappen is enjoying the peace. With a more than 30-point lead in the championship, there isn't too much pressure on him to perform. In fact, his closest threat right now is teammate Sergio Perez, who even beat the reigning champion at the Monaco Grand Prix. Some fans might be hoping for another epic teammate rivalry like Hamilton and Rosberg had at Mercedes. Do you think that Perez could challenge Verstappen for the title this year, or is Max a better all-around driver? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.